Shiki the Golden Lion during the times of God Valley. He was one of Rocksteady's best members of his crew. He was a Rocksteady's Beck member. He was a part of the greatest pirate crew to ever run around in One Piece. Their history was erased from fucking history because he was on the crew, right? Rox Dieselbeck, Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, him. He had the float fruit. I don't know if he had the float fruit back then, but it's known that he ran around with two fucking swords and he swung them around cutting motherfuckers down. That shit was known. That was known. You see it in the God Valley flashback, son. He's swinging his fucking swords around and shit, and he's hopping around like a fucking monkey. The Golden Lion Shiki, and he does, man. Stop lying, shit. These animals get fucking lying about One Piece. Don't gas this shit down, Golden Lion Shiki was running around like that, cutting people down on God Valley. Not the like Roger or none of the big names, but he was one of the big names there. We know that later on, non-canonically or canonically, that Luffy fought him in that movie called Strong World, right? But that was later on when he was weaker. Back then he was more powerful. And then he got caught eventually, after fighting against Gold Roger. Later on, so he left God Valley when everybody else left God Valley, when shit went south with Rock's Pirates, and they just, they were disposed of because their captain was destroyed or whatever, defeated. He then, gathered a crew himself, and he went against Gold Roger, and Gold Roger defeated him. And then Garp came in, grabbed him up, impelled down. But in impelled down, he cut his legs off, and he floated away. So I think, he got his devil fruit on God Valley, or he already had his devil fruit. But he cut his legs off and he flew away. Sen Goku and Garp were like, hey, you can't run away. And he's like, no, I actually can't. You can't even fucking, fuck with me, man. I'm already fucking left. And they couldn't grab him because he was up in the sky. They could jump only so high, and he is left. But so his strength is a 97. 97 for his speed and a 96 for his durability. 97 for his endurance and a 91 for his intelligence. 93 for his experience and a 95 for his close skills. 97 for his range skills and an 88 for his recoup. A 96 for his hacks and an overall power score of 94.7 for Golden Lion Shiki during the times of Gold Roger and Rox Dieselbeck in his prime. Be cool, Con.